Great, well, welcome everyone. 12:30 on the dot, we'll make a start. Welcome to Friday's report out for the Leeds Improvement Method. We've got some exciting report outs today. Reducing avoidable deterioration, MMPS team fast track and advanced lean training certificates. So we're going to start with the work that we've been doing across the trust on reducing avoidable deterioration, which of course is incredibly important in terms of our mission in relation to patient safety, and remembering our pyramid with the patient at the top and the work that we're doing to add value to our patients. So delighted to welcome Anna, Ali, Heather, Julie, Craig and Sheeta, is that right?
Yep.
Got all of you? Excellent. Floor is yours. Sorry, I'll get one.
Can you all see and hear okay? So hello, my name is Ali Cracknell, and I help support the deteriorating patient faculty, which is represented by far more than the people that can be standing here today. And it's fair to say they like a challenge, so we're going to attempt to, in 15 minutes, explain 3.5 years' work to you. So we've been working on this since 2014, and we've previously presented our work around our early pilot wards. We've got 14 wards in the trust across all different areas, coming up with ideas to test interventions using plan, do, study, act cycles about what they could do to improve the care of patients that were deteriorating. So was it around responding, escalating or managing? And they tried loads and loads of things. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, and we've ended up with about 5 interventions that seem to make a difference. And today is about telling you how we've scaled that up across the trust. And we've pretty much in the last 2 years reached every ward now in the trust. There's a few more to support in oncology, but otherwise we've gone everywhere. Our journey started with a driver diagram. So our aim was to reduce cardiac arrest by 50% on the pilot wards. We achieved that, and now our ambition is to reduce cardiac arrest by the same amount across the whole trust. And this is the journey we've been on. Our primary drivers haven't changed, and we've done loads of interventions to address those drivers, which Heather is going to explain, hiding behind me.
Hi, I'm a member of the Critical Care Outreach Team, part of the faculty. And the first work that we did was, like Alice said, with the 14 pilot wards, where they decided which interventions that they wanted to focus upon. And of the, initially there were 7, but then we came to the 5 that are on board there. 2 of them were stickers, where any of the member of the clinical support team can put into the notes. The nurses need to fill in the first half and the medical staff to secure the second half at the bottom. One's about escalation treatment and one's about when the patient scores a use of 5. Also there's a 2222 debrief tool that the ward staff are encouraged to use post any 2222 call that goes out, where they can discuss the good points and points that maybe they could learn from, and any way that they could maybe detect patients that have been deteriorating a little bit earlier, or that they need such things as, like, if there's a DNA CPR discussion, that can be highlighted then. The OBS Made Easy tool is an education tool that's just to use to standardise when we're giving out ward staff. So even if there's that agency staff, everybody has the same idea of where we're coming from, what we're highlighting at, and where they're to report to the ward staff. The final intervention that was decided upon was the safety huddle, and that's been felt to be key in all the interventions. Really, it brings all the interventions together. Ward staff can use some or all of the interventions, but as a bundle, it's best to use all 5. The safety huddle, again, is where anybody can highlight anybody that they're concerned about, and then again increase awareness of patients who may be deteriorating in their shift.
Hi, I'm Julie, one of the matrons. So we've rolled out across CSUs, and we initially decided to use AMS as one of the first CSUs to roll out the Deteriorating Patient Collaborative and launch this across the whole of the CSU. and we decided to do a step-by-step approach rather than going for a big rollout. So we did this by engaging with the teams. We used the Deteriorating Patient Collaborative to come to clinical audit meetings, staff meetings, and also have discussions with the CSU team. And we initially set up a deteriorating patient specialty faculty. However, we found it wasn't very successful for us as a CSU because it was quite difficult to get that MDT engagement. So we then set up local meetings with the ward teams where we encourage them to come back and share ideas, feedback the progress and learn together and review data. We also use the Deteriorating Patient Collaborative to come to attend sisters meetings, feedback and progress and go through the data. And we use the CSU governance meetings usually on a quarterly basis to go over our data and see how we're doing and look at our progress. We have had executive assistance when we've achieved our milestones, and the Deteriorating Patient Collaborative has also helped by coming and doing walk-rounds in the CSU, looking at our progress, offering advice and assistance where that's needed in using a collaborative. I'll hand over to Craig.
I'm Craig, Information Manager. A dashboard's been produced for each of the CSUs. It follows the same format to the Trust dashboard, so some people may or may not be familiar with it. It just shows the number of 2222 calls in total, and then it breaks them down by the type of call that is. So cardiac arrest, for example, which equates to around 50% of our total calls. Any step change when it's statistically significant, that's shown on there as well, so you can see any improvements or what we've not seen yet, any deterioration. As part of that, you can then drill down into this dashboard and it brings up a ward level for each of the CSU. So every ward that's within that CSU have got their own dashboard, so they can see how they're doing at ward level as well. The faculty are providing support and education to engage users with these dashboards, because it's acknowledged that for a lot of people seeing data and charts like this is a bit overwhelming at times. So we'd just like to support and help on that one. A heat map, again for each CSU, and that can be broken down to ward level, so they can see just where their calls are taking place. You can see that this is for the Trust for the first quarter. You see that the majority of calls are on the darkest spots of the heat map, so it's Monday and Tuesday and Thursdays, with across the week 12 o'clock being the main time for calls, and that's something that we've always seen, and it just seems to be, no matter what cut of data we look at, it seems to be that midweek and 12 o'clock on the Tuesday. Cumulatively, we like to plot the data as well, just going up across the year. Across the Trust, we've seen great improvements over the years, as you can see. In 2017, we had 31% less cardiac arrests than we had in 2015, which equates to around 108 patients. And that was 7% less than in 2016, which was 19 patients. The cumulative view for 2018, as you can see, we're about on par with where we were last year, which is, again, that's good work. And you can see that there's still a lot of work to do, but we're still going in the right direction there. SPC charts are something else that we've been using, just to understand what's happening. It takes away the looking at months in isolation, because it could easily be looked at there. Seeing December to January, we've seen a big jump up. Is there something happening? Is there something wrong? With an SPC, you can easily see that everything's in process. The process is in control, just natural variation, and we are where we want to be. If it wasn't for the high volumes in January, we would have seen a significant reduction, and we would have been able to apply a step change there, but unfortunately we had those volumes in January. But it's nothing to be concerned about. And I'll hand over to Anna, I think now.
Just
So,
March was one of our lowest points, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Go back to the last chart.
March, we saw our, just get my in there now. March was the lowest volumes since September 2016 in the Trust for 2222 call, so 18 months, and it was the lowest volume in that. And here at St James's, it was our lowest volume for 2222 calls since we started recording, which was back in January 14.
So, thanks, Craig. This is an SPC chart which demonstrates trust-wide cardiac arrest calls And as you can see, we've actually managed to have a 25% reduction in cardiac arrest across the trust, which is something we're really proud about, and actually helps motivate us to think we can go further, because as Ali's explained, we've actually only just scaled up in TRS and we haven't scaled up in oncology yet. So we believe we can reach our 50% reduction in cardiac arrest across the whole trust. So let's focus on one CSU just to give you an idea about in a bit more detail. So this is ESM CSU data. So at the top you can see the number of 2222 calls they've had, all calls, and they've actually had a step reduction in all calls across the CSU and in cardiac arrests, which is a massive, massive achievement. And just hot off the press, for ESM we've got some headlines. J08 only in the last couple of days have reached 200 days without a call, which is a massive achievement, and has beaten the record since we ever started recording this data. It surpassed that, the best record. And the same with J28, which is one of our admission wards for medicine. They've gone over 80 days without a call at all, which again is a massive achievement. And we know that across the organisation, our survival from cardiac arrests is actually better than the national average. And our theory behind that is actually patients that have a chance and can come round are resuscitated. We're resuscitating the right people. And for those patients who don't want to be resuscitated and resuscitation isn't indicated, we're starting to make those decisions more appropriately. So as you can see, we're all really committed to sustaining this work and going further. But a key to sustainability is continuing to expand our faculty, and we're bringing in new members is crucial to this. So we've got Ash, who's our newest team member, who's just going to talk to you a little bit about sustainability.
Thank you, Anna, and the team for the warm welcome. So I'm looking forward to work with the team, proactively work with the team to visit wards and visit staff and just increase their awareness about the interventions that we have and the bundle, and supporting the debrief and use of the bundle at a ward and CSU level. And we obviously seek the executive support to recognise wards who are performing really well and celebrate their success by giving them certificates. Thank you.
So what on earth is next? So this is one of the things that's next, which is a quality dashboard. So Ali, myself, Craig and the team are really passionate about frontline teams having accessible improvement data, not RAG-rated spreadsheets, but improvement data like this. So with the magic talents of Craig, we've created this dashboard for each CSU. So it has 2222 calls on it, cardiac arrests, falls and pressure ulcers, developed in ones that it had originally. And actually teams can see very quickly how their CSU is doing for each of these key parameters. And we also have behind this for each CSU this same data at ward level. And we're going to test using this dashboard in 2 CSUs to begin with to see how we can try starting to move towards teams using this data, as that will be coming soon. And some other next steps, one of the key themes that comes out of our debriefs often is advanced care planning and perhaps missed opportunities to think about, does the patient actually want to be resuscitated and is it appropriate? So we're going to do some really focused work based on the data to look at key areas where we could improve that. One other thing is, so obviously our cardiac arrests have gone down. Some of our junior doctors and junior staff have not been to a cardiac arrest call before and are really nervous about going to one. So it's an unintended consequence. So looking at ways that they can potentially carry around a bleep so they can be an observer for a cardiac arrest. It just sort of help improve their training. Picking out the key themes from our debriefs and then looking at other areas. So this is a Pareto chart which demonstrates the biggest number of calls across the trust. And you can see cardiorespiratory, ESM, AMS and TRS are the top areas, but here is other areas. So other areas are corridors, radiology, the canteen, etc. So if we're really focused on trying to reduce calls across the organisation, we're going to have to think of some innovative new interventions for our bundle to try and tackle those. So that's another area to look at. Ali.
So we've learnt a lot about how to scale up interventions across the trust and how we need to adapt that to each CSU and support them to, empower their staff to continue to learn how to adapt it to their world. And we've also learnt a lot about how to scale up interventions across the trust and how we need to adapt that to each CSU and support them to, empower their staff to continue to learn how to adapt it to their world. And we've also learnt a lot about how to scale up interventions across the trust and how we need to adapt that to each CSU and support them to, empower their staff to continue to learn how to adapt it to their world. I mean, the biggest learning for us, I think, is how to work collaboratively, involve every member of the team is absolutely crucial, and you can see the faculty represents all different professional groups, and creating an environment where frontline teams are empowered to test their own ideas, and we just support them with data and encouragement, and match that with celebration, and the executive and senior leaders coming to support those teams as well. No improvement journey is an easy ride, so we've had lots of challenges along the way. Just the data is a massive challenge, and being able to review that real time, but we're making significant strides there now. And then every now and then some new initiative gets thrown at us as well. But actually I think because of the work we've been doing, we've learned that the culture is there to be ready to adapt these into their world. So actually e-observations has actually really helped with the work we've been doing. But it can be a lot for a ward to take on at once. How do we scale up this as well as get them onto e-meds? So it's about getting the timing right. And as Anna said, there are unintended consequences, and it's about learning and knowing about those as you go along. So we do need to support our junior doctors and junior nurses who are saying we just don't go to cardiac arrests anymore. So we're looking at simulation and training loops to cover that angle. So in summary, we've reduced cardiac arrests by 25% already. We absolutely believe we can go further if we continue the work we're doing and look at new ideas. And we're also we've shown that we can improve despite it being winter, despite the massive challenges. We're maintaining, if not even improving, where we've been, and that's quite important learning. Don't just think it's good to maintain things in winter, we can actually go further. So we've had a great fun. These are loads of our teams celebrating their data, and we will go further, and thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you very much. That was great. Great to see the progress, and what a fantastic result in terms of 25% reduction. And as you said, Ali, in some of our most pressurised environments, we're still able to see the improvements that we're making. Great to see the CSU level data now available, which I'm sure colleagues will want to grab and look at and use. And as far as the points you made and Ash made about continuing to support this, I know there's huge commitment from us, you know, Suzanne, Dean, Dave, Yvette, all of us would want to back the work that's going on and support what's happening, because it's making a real difference to the way in which we deal with patients that are at risk of deteriorating. So when there are examples of things you want us to come and support, do let us know. And a great example of the Leeds way in terms of the collaboration. So really good, and thanks very much for sharing it. We look forward to seeing you in, another 6 months, and let's see where the data points are at that stage. But you've seen the SPC charts, we're able to see some of the significant improvement, statistically significant improvement in the way that we're dealing with this. So thank you. Excellent. Right, now we're going to move on to another exciting piece of improvement work, which colleagues from Pharmacy, Medicines Management, talking about Fast Track. So if we can invite Katie, Emma, Derek, Chloe, Rodrigue up to join us.
Hiya, I'm Chloe and I'm a pharmacy technician from Aseptics, and we are Team Fast Track. And over the past year we've been working on a lead improvement method project to improve productivity, improve efficiency and reduce waste and costs in our dispensaries. Between us we've got over 50 years of NHS experience, and we come from a variety of areas including aseptics, clinical trials, radiopharmacy, wards and outpatients. I'll hand you over to Derek, who'll tell you a little bit about the problem we found.
Hello, my name is Derek. I'm a pharmacy support worker based in Glenelg Inpatient Pharmacy. So the problem that we decided to tackle actually is not the angry man at the bottom of the page. It's to do with what's causing him that grief. And it has to do with the amount of telephone calls that we receive with regards to prescription progress in dispensary. which can be quite a little bit tedious sometimes, especially on a very, very busy day. So we decided to tackle that problem, and to quantify that problem, we decided to adopt some learning techniques. And now my colleague Emma is going to talk to you about the techniques we adopted.
Okay, I'm Emma. I'm a HIV Patient Services Coordinator at the LGI. We use some of these techniques to identify the problems and areas where there are waste. We looked at how to make improvements by using risk assessments, payback matrix, 8 ways, cause and effect diagram, 5S, root cause analysis, waste elimination and visual management. I'll hand you back to Derek.
So we decided to collect some data because we needed to prove the fact that the problem existed. So we collected the data from Gledhow Inpatient Pharmacy, and the data showed that about 20% of the total calls we receive in a day were related to chasing up prescriptions, which is costing us about 10.6 days in a year just spent on answering telephone calls like that. Costing us about £747 a year. That's based on a band 3 wage, but we know that not only band 3 is who answer the phone calls, it could be a band 4, 5 or 6 depending on the time, out of hours and stuff like that. So potentially we could save the NHS some £3,735, and that's the minimum that we can save the NHS if we're able to eliminate this problem. But we realised there was a bit of an error in our calculations, and that's because our calculations were based on a 24-hour working period. But we don't work 24 hours, are we? Unless we're robots. That's the only way we can achieve that. So we decided to go back and collect some more data. So for 2 weeks, we went back to our data collection, and the data proved that 305 calls were received over the 14-day period, which is about 153 in a week, costing us 36 working days in a year answering this type of telephone calls. So based on a band 3 salary, we'll be able to save the NHS some £2,403, and that's based on the band 3 salary only. But that figure can go up depending on who is answering the telephone call. So potentially we can save the trust some £12,000 across all dispensaries. But we know that on the other side or the other end of the telephone is another staff member that's based on the ward, so that figure can actually be double the amount we can save the NHS. And below is a bar chart showing which type of prescription is actually chased the most, with EDANs being the top one, followed by non-stocks, CDs, and also ward stocks. But this actually, this data is a conservative one because we're relying on pharmacy staff to comply with the data collection, but most of them did admit that they forgot somehow sometimes to put in writing whenever they receive some that type of telephone calls. And we know we have about 100 wards across the trust. So if we're able to eliminate this problem, then we're going to save the NHS a lot of money. So to tackle the problem, my colleague Kate is going to talk to you about the tracker.
Hello, my name's Katie Houseman. I work in clinical trials in pharmacy. So this is the prescription tracker system. It's a web-based program which allows pharmacy to book in any piece of work, whether it be an EDAN, a one-stop, a CD, once it reaches pharmacy. It allocates a unique barcode to each piece of work, which operators use to then scan it through activities. And each operator has their own unique barcode as well, which has already been programmed into the tracker system. So an audit trail is then developed as the piece of work passes through each activity. So it could be booked in, then waiting for label and dispense, being labelled, and so on and so forth until it's ultimately released from pharmacy. So this is based on a traffic light system. As you can see, it's all green on this one, but it does work around preset target times, and obviously that's motivation for the pharmacy staff to get through the work. It provides real-time audit trail, and this is the view that pharmacy would see. This is just for one ward on this particular slide, but we normally have it set to show all wards, and then it shows them in time order of the work being received. It's got the facility to add notes and symbols depending on what type of work it is as well. And I'll hand over to my colleague Rod.
Yeah, hello, my name is Rod. I'm a pharmacy support worker from Radio Pharmacy, and thank you for dedicating your time to listen to us today. Like my colleague previously said, we dedicated a lot of time to try and find out why this efficient tool that we had wasn't being used adequately. So we looked at the roots and the cause generating multiple calls that we could basically tackle by making this formidable tool more effective. So what we notice is that there's no access to tracker on ward-based staff. And also amongst us pharmacy, although this tool have been in use for a while, the staff were not really compliant. Also, the repeat calls for the same prescription was a factor of our staff based in pharmacy not being compliant doing that. So what we decided to do is to find out how we can troubleshoot this by putting in place a user guide to facilitate access to the tracker, and also to raise awareness on for the benefits of the compliance in using this tool. Our main objective was to reduce the amount of repetitive calls that we were having for at least 50%. I will pass you back to Chloe, and she will walk you through some of the solutions that we come across.
So after looking at the root causes, we've started to think of some solutions. And we thought, if we've got the tracker to use in dispensary and it works quite well, why not have access to that on the wards? So we knew that would mean delivering training to the staff on the wards, which meant we'd have to engage with the ward technicians and the ward pharmacists so that they could ensure ward staff knew what they were doing, how to use it effectively, and they could steer them towards it if they were asking questions. We also wanted to create a compliance poster for our staff in pharmacy to reiterate the importance of using the tracker. We wanted to create an awareness poster for the wards so they could understand the benefits of using this. And we wanted to create a guide for them so it's quick and simple to use. We do know that on PPM there is some potential to look at the progress of EDANs, but we decided that it didn't contain enough detailed information, and there is restricted access to that. We also know that some of the calls were about ward stocks, non-stocks and CDs. That was about a third of the calls that we received, and this information isn't available on PPM, so we think that that is as important to track, so that's why we went along with the tracker. So these are two of the posters that we made. The one on the left is the one that we made for the ward, which was just a bit of fun, but also to raise awareness of why the benefits of using the tracker. And then the one on the right was the one for the dispensary. It was just sort of to try and improve compliance of using it. Yes, that's what we did with that. And I'll pass you to Katie, who'll talk you through our tracker guide.
Okay, so this is what the tracker guide looks like that we supplied to J97. And this shows the ward view of the prescription tracking system, complete with the guidance notes that we've put on for them. As you can see at a glance, it's really easy to use, and the version that the ward would have is read-only. So they can't tamper with any of the data that's on there, it's just a read-only version. It also only shows patients on their own particular ward, so they wouldn't have access to other information about patients on other wards. They wouldn't be able to see the pharmacy operators either as they're scanning through the activities, but they can see the activity timeline. So they can see which process is out and how long it's taken so far, but they can't see which member of pharmacy has that piece of work. I'll hand you over to Emma.
Okay. So during the audit, we established that J97 was a frequent caller. We chose them for audit because we thought they would see the most benefit. Our objectives was to reduce the number of calls by pharmacy relating to prescription progress by 50%. Did we meet it? Yes, we did. We smashed it. Reduced it by 100%.
Okay, so feedback. So engagement with the ward staff on 97 was really positive from the start. Thank you, Jill. They were really keen to adopt a new way of working, very open to it, and basically happy to try anything that might save them some time, as I'm sure most of you on the wards would want to do. So they've fed back to us that the pilot's been really successful when resources were available. That's a key point. And we had an example given where the nurse asked the pharmacist on the ward, "Where's this item that I've ordered?" She directed her to the tracker. The tracker stated the item was out for delivery with a particular member of our delivery team. As they turned away from the tracker screen, it turned up with our member of the delivery team, and that is actually how it should work. But as I've alluded to, we did have some barriers to success. So this pilot really heavily relied on our delivery person not being on leave, no holidays, Paul, sorry, and also covering that particular wing. And we only had one handheld scanner available to us as well, which made it restricted basically. On the ward itself, we didn't have a dedicated tracker screen. So in an ideal world, we'd want to have a screen next to the whiteboard, for instance, where anybody at a glance can see what's happening with the things they've ordered from pharmacy. In actual fact, there's so many staff on the ward jumping on and off PCs. Whilst we made the tracker as accessible as we could, it was restricted in that sense. There was also no facility to deliver the pilot in its entirety out of hours, due to there being different delivery staff, no scanners, and so on. But we did feel like the potential savings for the pilot in the out of hours period would actually increase because of the grade of staff working in pharmacy at that time. It's a much higher level of staff. Obviously the foundation pharmacists who work the evening shifts would absolutely welcome a reduction in the bleeps they get overnight. And when we asked them, they thought that on a busy shift where there's been a lot of work left over from the day, it could be as much as 50% of the bleeps they get just asking about prescription progress. So, what is our vision, if it's not obvious? We would really like to roll the tracker out to all the wards across the trust. We believe this would allow nurses and ward-based pharmacy staff to deliver more direct patient care as recommended in the Carter report. Now bear in mind that if we can save 36 days of pharmacy time, we can save the same at ward level. Multiply that by the number of wards we have across the trust and the savings start to become really significant. And it also nicely aligns with the new era of the digital ward. So it should release time in the dispensaries to concentrate on processing the work rather than answering the phone, and it will also provide an improved audit trail of the medication journey from pharmacy to ward. And there is the potential with the right hardware and software to get an electronic signature on delivery that could be visible on the tracker, which then gives us some accountability of who's signed for something. So that's the Fast Track Improvement Project. Thank you very much.
Great. Fantastic, thank you very much. So much to say about that. I'm just really impressed with how you went about measuring it, used the tools, applied them, and the use of technology as well as the working with J97, and well done Paul, getting him there. It's great to see, and I loved it, Emma. You smashed it. What a great piece of music. So looking forward to seeing it continue, develop, and as you were saying, kind of roll this out and take advantage of the opportunity this presents. Really, really impressive. Thank you. Okay, moving quickly on. Last of the three presentations, and then a bit of time hopefully for any questions on what you've heard. So I'd like to invite Gillian Dennis and Penny Barker up. And I think you got a little bit to say first of all, yes?
Hi everybody, my name's Penny Barker. I am the business manager for in trauma and related services. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my lean journey so far. So I've just completed the advanced lean training course. So the way I'm going to describe this for my Lean for Leader colleagues and ALT colleagues in the room, I'm going to talk about my current state before the ALT course and my future state after the ALT course. So when I started before I started the ALT course, I had an unfamiliarity of operational tools to help me facilitate elimination of waste within my service. So prior to the actual ALT course, I would have sort of minimal structure to the way I would approach service improvement activities. I had a reactive nature in my role as a business manager, so I would deal with things day to day without much sort of planning of the longer term impact that would have. And I had a nervousness of the methodology, so I had a feeling that all of the service improvement work I'd done previously was the wrong way to do it, so I think I had a bit of a nervousness around that. So my future state, post-ALT, complete change in mindset when approaching improvement work. I now use specific tools when I'm approaching any sort of waste reduction programme within my service. I take a more planned approach to day-to-day operations, so rather than working reactively to the various situations in my service, I feel that I take a more proactive approach. So even if there is a reactive element still, I'll always try to understand the root cause of that problem. And
in relation to the approach to the AAA improvement pathway, so that's a work stream within my service at the moment. We have a 56-day target that we have to achieve, which we're not currently achieving. On Monday this week, we held a multidisciplinary meeting with various staff to improve the pathway. So that included anaesthetists, radiologists, vascular surgeons, and we used the tools and we mapped the current state where we are now, and we mapped the future state of where we want to be in the near future. So what we actually did, we focused on particular areas within the current state. We've now got actions over the next 6 weeks of what we want to achieve in those 6 weeks, and those are ongoing within my service. So Leeds improvement methods. So Helen asked us to describe what resonated with us the most with conducting the ALT course. For me, separating the necessary from the unnecessary. So being confident to actually ask the question, do I need this to do my job? And if not, can we reduce it or can we eliminate it? Value versus non-value added, time, process, etc. within the services. Does it add value to the patient experience? And if it doesn't, can also that be reduced or eliminated? It requires strong leadership. So I think my role as a business manager has actually been refined by the ALT course, in that I feel that my role is to facilitate the waste reduction programmes, it's to hold people to account, it's to set deadlines, and it's to keep the momentum with the waste reduction projects in my service. And this is just a bit of advertisement for our CSU, TRS. We are leading a Waste Walk Week. So from the 2nd to the 6th of July, every team within TRS will be expected to lead a waste walk within their areas. So it's going to be facilitated by myself and Roger, which I'm not sure if he's in the room today, I don't think he is. So Roger's from the PMO team as well. So we're aiming to engage all of our staff within the Leeds improvement method. We want to embed the values into our service, and we're hoping to generate new waste reduction ideas, prioritise them, and then get them on our waste reduction schemes for this year.
Great.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
So I'm inviting that to everybody if you want to engage in that as well.
Thank you very much. Dennis.
Yeah. So hello, my name is Gillian Dennis. I am a service manager in abdominal medicine and surgery. So mine is slightly different to Penny's because while Penny's done ALT, last year I also did Lean for Leaders, and now I've completed ALT as well. So I'd already used a lot of the tools already. And when Helen asked us to think about something that resonated with us, it's for me it's the learning. So it's been a massive amount of learning, and learning. I think people think it's easy, and it's really not. I'm 50 years old, so actually it's been 35 years since I have had to learn a big thing like this. So the things I've learned are that people learn best when they are being treated with respect. It's one of the 10 respectful behaviours that we all learn about, and actually whether you're teaching or whether you are being taught, I found that when you've treated with respect, that is the easiest way for me to learn. It's got to be a positive experience. You're not going to get anything out of this if you don't look at it positively and put some positivity yourself into it, because it's easy to think, oh, this is hard, but you really have to get over the hard bit and look at the positives. And I found that group situations are better. It's much easier when there's a few of you in a room. And I found Lean for Leaders and Advanced Lean Training the good bits were it's the same team. So if you don't get something, you can say to those people, I don't get it. And you don't feel as bad because you're all doing it together. And I looked at, just while I've been putting this together, I looked at the science behind learning and the 3 things. Tim's going to love this because, you know, as my general manager, Tim, apparently, when the learning I've done now means that I have an improved working memory, I have increased my language skills, and Tim, I've got better verbal intelligence. Yeah, I know. We're just going to have to look for it. We really are going to have to look for that one. The second thing for me was teamwork, because actually together, everybody achieves more. And the thing for me, I already knew my teams were great. I'm the biggest advocate for my teams. They're amazing people. But I was still amazed at when I went to everybody, so I included all my teams in Advanced Lean Training. I explained to them it was a team effort. And the things that we did together were the things that were the most enjoyable. So doing the 5S, the value and waste, mistake proofing, setup reduction, value stream mapping, visual controls, all had for me my teams working together to do it, and those were by far the much easier assignments to do. PQ analysis,
That was lots of fun that I didn't understand but still managed to pass. So it's something that I need to work on a little bit more, I think. And going forward, so I think that we've got some really good things going on in AMS. I think that we can get better, and we always want to be the best. So we're going to look at everything that we do good, see how we can improve it, and come out being the best CSU. Sorry. In the chest. Thank you.
Very good. Well done. That's fantastic, Penny, Gillian. Stay there, because just wanted to say what you've both done is tremendous, and thank you for sharing your learning, which has obviously had a big impact on you both in terms of what you learned from this. And I have to say, going through Lean for Leaders and just having done Module 2 on standard operations, I have huge respect and admiration for you guys doing advanced Lean training and how far that takes you in terms of what you have to learn. So, really well done. So, congratulations, Penny.
Thank you.
Well done. And Gillian, well done.
Thank you.
So that completes the sequence of the 3 report outs. Just brief opportunity, just thinking back from where we started with the team on deteriorating patients and the great things we've seen in reducing those cardiac calls, and then the great work that's going on in medicines management and pharmacy, and then of course Penny and Gillian talking about their experience of advanced Lean training. So any questions, comments, bit of feedback, Craig?
Just a question about the deteriorating patient work in terms of his unintended consequences that I'd never really thought about that until recently when we were talking about it. And one of the parallel pieces of work is the post-cardiac arrest debrief that we've asked people to do, and I just wondered if we were in a position yet to have learned anything from that in terms of whether things have changed.
There was some themes that come out from the debrief, one of which was access to suction across the trust. So certain areas found that when they came to resuscitate a patient, the suction either wasn't set up or they couldn't access it in a timely fashion. And thankfully we've got the resus governance group who are able to put that through a process to try and make sure it is resolved. So we've now made some changes, they've made some changes to improve access to suction across the wards. It's now measured on part of the nursing metrics to ensure that this doesn't happen again. So that's one example.
Right.
But I think we've got more to go in terms of more examples.
Thanks, Anna. One more question or comment before we close? Tim?
Can I ask the pharmacy team? Clearly you spent quite a lot of time ahead of trying your improvements, quantifying what the gains might be. I think a lot of people find that frustrating in terms of we just want to get on with it, we want to make things better, we want to do it now, and time spent doing this is time wasted. Do you think it helped the process of actually implementing your improvements?
I think so. I think all of us who work in pharmacy, you know how frustrating it is, how many calls you get in a day, but we needed to prove, in order to sort of get approval for things like resources, we needed to prove that it did exist to people who aren't in pharmacy every day. So we wanted to show that actually, even when people admitted to maybe not writing down all the data, 305 calls over 2 weeks is a lot when it's just people asking where's this, where's that. So we wanted to be able to prove that and then prove that we had made an improvement in the end. So it was good to see that comparison once we had put the pilot in, that there were no calls from that ward regarding that. So it was valuable to us, I think.
Okay, thank you. So just to close, thank you again to all of you today that reported out. Really good, really impressive. And just to pick up the, I think it was your slide, Gillian, of good, better, best. We are good as a trust. We want to be the best. And all of this work is absolutely helping us improve continuously in every area. So many examples. But I just want to encourage all of you to take pride and inspiration from what you've heard today, from teams that have been reporting out. Continue the work, those of you that are doing it. It's really making a difference. And I'm hugely impressed by the way in which everyone's coming together to make this work. It's a wonderful example of how the Leeds way is working in action. So well done. Thanks very much. See you next time. Great skills you've got now, though.
Thanks for coming. We will. We'll be there.